Hey, what's going on guys? It's Moto. In today's video, I'm going to be swapping out the halogen headlight as well as the ugly blinkers on my 2021 DRZ400SM. I picked up a pair of Chinese blinkers off of Amazon, and I have a LED bulb that should fit this bike, so stay tuned. Alright, so here is the stock halogen headlight on the DRZ400SM. Even though this is a 2021 model, they still do come with a halogen headlight. That being said, I picked up a LED light. It's the H4 bulb from superbrightleds.com. I'll make sure to link it down below. I actually purchased this bulb when I got it for my TW200, but because it is technically a car light as well, the kit came with two bulbs, and so I had a spare one and I decided to put it in this bike. And as far as the blinker goes, also pretty standard halogen blinkers, nothing crazy. They stick out from the bike and they look kind of ugly. I have some cheap Chinese blinkers lying around the house that I'm going to put in here, and eventually I do want to either get Zeta handguard with the blinkers or the TST Industries flush mount blinkers. But like I said, I purchased this bike cash and I am hurting for money right now, so until I save up a little bit of money, this is what I'm going to put in the bike. Alright, so here are the products I have for the bike. This is the headlight. It's an H4 bulb. Once again, I got this originally for the TW200, but it came with two, so I'll be installing that. And then as far as the blinkers go, these are some super cheap Chinese blinkers. I'll make sure to link everything down below for you guys. They are pretty cool. I believe they are supposed to kind of like flash like that in a sequence. So hopefully that looks cool. And I think these were like 15 bucks, so not a bad deal. And as far as tools, I got a socket set here, some wire cutters. I also got the little solder seal wire connectors. You can also just use regular heat shrink, but these work really well because it's heat shrink and solder all in one. I have a Phillips head screwdriver and a heat gun, and that should be all we will need, so let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the headlight cowling, and to do that, there should be 3 Phillips head screws on either side of it. One here, one down below, and one on the other side. Alright, and with those 3 removed, simply pull off the cowling. Okay, so I'm going to start with the blinker install first. To do this, you want to access the wiring, which is underneath this little pouch thing that they have going on here. So this is the first wire. We'll start with this one. And to unlatch this, you put your fingernail underneath this little tab and pull out. Okay, so to remove the stock blinker, you're going to grab a 8mm socket, and there's a little nut behind here that you'll loosen, and it should come right off. And with that nut removed, you can simply wiggle this free, pop out that little plastic piece, and make sure to save these because we will need this. Okay, so after a little bit of testing, I found out that this hole is too big for this specific blinker, and I won't be able to fasten it down. And the little piece of plastic, this hole is too small, so I'm not going to mess with this because I think I might need this if I do the TST flush mounts. So what I'm going to do instead is just use a couple of washers, and this should secure it for now until eventually I do upgrade it to the TST kit. And as you can tell, with a washer there and a washer on the other side, it'll hold it no problem. So as you can tell, this connection on the little LED bulb is not the same as the stock OEM connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this and I'm going to cut this and use the heat shrink and put them together. And this way I'm not messing up the stock wiring harness that's on the bike. You know, you can get these really cheap if for whatever reason you wanted to go back to it and get the stock harness. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that and we'll see how it works. Alright, so I just cut this and I'll go ahead and strip the wires. And same thing for the stock harness, make sure you give yourself enough room to work with. Now using my solder and heat shrink, I'm going to place these over each wire. And actually we'll start with one, so I'll leave this one off to the side. So this green is the positive, and this will line up with your red on your blinker. So put these two together. You essentially want the little conductive copper part to overlap with each other directly in the center underneath the solder. And then with your heat gun, you could also use a blow dryer if you don't have a heat gun, just might take a little bit longer. Go ahead and heat this up. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for this side. Alright, and similar thing, you're just going to want to overlap it. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but the solder did melt, and that should be good. All right, so before I do anything else, I'm just going to connect it to make sure that my connections are good and that the blinker works properly. All right, let's check it out. Where's my key? There we go. And as you can tell, the blinker does work and function properly. Now keep in mind, I do have the LED flasher relay from TST Industries on this bike. I installed that when I did the tail tidy, and as you can tell, it works perfectly. It allows this blinker to blink at a normal pace. It's not hyper flashing or anything like that, and we should be good to go. All right, so now I'm gonna put my first washer on my wire and thread the wire through. And then I will put my second washer, followed by the nut. All right, so now assemble the blinker and the nut onto your bracket here, and you can position it however you want, forward or back. I'm just gonna get it in the middle. And if this is gonna be permanent for you, then I might suggest wrapping this with some electrical tape, or even if you have like a big heat shrink to go over this whole thing, just to help protect it and make sure it doesn't go anywhere. But these are pretty solid, so I'm gonna go ahead and plug this right back into the bike. Okay, and with everything plugged back in, I will double check it to make sure it functions. And yep, functions perfectly. And if you are planning on leaving these for a really long time, then maybe consider Loctiting the nut, but these aren't going anywhere. Okay, so now it's time to repeat the same process for the other side, and I will meet you back over here when we do the headlight. And one thing to keep in mind when doing the left blinker on the DRZ, your black and white wire that comes from the bike is your negative, and your black wire is your positive. Also, another way to tell your left versus right blinker, the left blinker will have this little gray plastic connection, whereas the right blinker has the black connection. Okay, so now that both blinkers are installed and tightened down, I just put the wires back in this little compartment here, and we'll go ahead and work on the headlight. So to remove the headlight housing and access the bulb itself, you will need to remove these 4 bolts that are on all sides of the headlight. And this is a 10mm socket. With those 4 bolts removed, you should be able to go ahead and pull on your headlight and access the H4 connector over here. So now to remove the connection from the bulb, all you need to do is wiggle it just a little bit and pull straight out. And now, as you can tell, we can access our bulb. So pull back on this grommet here. And using this little tab, you're going to push down and pull towards you, and it will remove this little bracket here that holds the headlight. And there you go, removes just like that. So taking a look here at the LED headlight kit from Super Bright LEDs, at the time this was the brightest light available. So we'll open it up, and as you can tell here, it says 2000 lumens. So disregard this light. This is a cheap Amazon light I had originally purchased, but here is the bulb that is in question, and as you can tell, it has the H4 style connection. So before we do anything, let's plug it in to make sure it works. All right, and these do get hot, but as you can tell, oh, my blinker's still on. As you can tell, it does work. All the LEDs work, so that is good. So now I'm going to see if it'll fit. It can be a pain because this little part here that distributes the heat of the LED can sometimes get in the way. So let's see if we can make this work. These are also kind of annoying to put on. You have to line up these little prongs here with the indents on the light. Take your time. This is a pain in the butt, but it'll work. All right, and let's see if this bracket works here. I don't know if it will. So the stock bracket here that holds on the bulb did work, so that's great. So now the last thing to do is install this back onto the brackets, and we should be all set. Make sure when installing it you're not pinching any wires. Okay, with all 4 bolts tightened down, we'll double check everything again. Headlight works, blinkers work. And as you can tell, I like to double check everything because it's worth it, because once you reassemble all this, it's kind of annoying to have to retake it all apart, but we're good to go. So making sure I don't pinch any of the wires, we'll re-put the headlight cowling back on the bike. All right, so now that everything is put back together, let's take a final look and see how we like it. And this LED bulb is significantly brighter than the stock halogen bulb that comes on this bike. I've only ridden this bike twice at night, but I will definitely tell you that this is going to make a big difference. And I'm pretty sure I only paid like 15 or 20 bucks for these blinkers, so for that price, I really can't complain. They actually look pretty sweet, and I might consider keeping them for a little bit longer than I originally intended. Like I said, I will eventually be getting the Zeta handguard or the TST Industries flush mounts, but until then, these are pretty badass, and I really like how they came out. Alright, so that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Also guys, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, feel free to reach out to me either on YouTube with the comment section down below or in my DMs on Instagram. Anyways, it's Most Remoto. Thank you so much for watching and ride safe.